Your course name, Fundamentals of Arduino. So Arduino Uno and its programming is the topic. So these are all the contents, that is introduction, Arduino Uno Pinout details, then followed by programming. So in that programming you are discuss about structure, setup, then loop, functions, variable scope, if else statement, followed by your digital read pin and digital write pin. So Arduino is an open source programmable circuit board that can be integrated into a variety of makerspace projects for both simple and complex problem. It contains a microcontroller which consists of which can be programmed to sense and control objects in the physical world. By responding to a sensors and input, the Arduino is able to interact with the large array of outputs such as LEDs, motors and displays. So Arduino Uno is a popular microcontroller development board based on 8-bit Mega 328 microcontroller. So in that microcontroller, it consists of other components such as crystal oscillator, serial communication, voltage regulator to support the microcontroller. So this is the pinout details of your Arduino board. Your first pin is reset button. This will restart any code that is loaded into the Arduino board. Then AREF, that is the second, is nothing but your analog reference, and it is used to an external reference voltage. Then next one is a ground pin. So few ground pins are the Arduino and they can be work all on the same. So digital input and output, we have pins 0 to 13 can be used for digital input or it may be an output. So fifth is your PWM. This pins is marked with asterisk symbol and can be simulate your analog output. ESP connection, that is used for powering up your Arduino and uploading sketches. Then a transmitter and receiver, as it indicates with the LEDs. Then Atmega microcontroller, it is a brain and where your program can be stored. Then power LED indicators, LED lights up anytime the board is plugged into your power source. Your 10th one is your voltage regulator. It will regulates the amount of voltage going into the Arduino board. Then DC power barrel check. It's for powering your Arduino with the power supply. Then 3.3 volt pin which supplies 3.3 volts of your power to your project. Then a 5 volt pin, 5 volts of power to your project. Then a ground pin, SP ground pin on the Arduino. And I think it's already discussed. And analog pin, it's for read the signal from an analog sensor and convert it into a digital one. So these are all the pin configurations, and next we move on to your Arduino programming. And before that we discussed about the basics of programming, that is structure. First one is structure. So usually it is an the basic structure of the Arduino programming language is fairly simple, and it runs in at least two parts. So the two required parts or functions enclose the blocks of statements. That is a void setup with the curly braces statements. Then the next is a void loop. Here where setup is the preparation and the loop is nothing but for execution. Both the functions are required for the program to work. The setup functions to follow the declaration of any variables at the very beginning of the program. It is the first function to run in the program. It is run only once, and it is used to set a pin mode or initialize serial communication. The loop functions follows the next and includes the code to be executed continuously, reading inputs, triggering outputs, etc. This function is the core of Arduino programs and does work the bulk of the work. Next, the setup. The setup function is called once, and when the program starts, usually it initializes the pin modes or being a serial. It must be included in a program even if there are no statement to run. Void setup, and open the curly braces, so that is a pin mode. Next loop, and after calling the setup function, the loop function does previously what its name suggests and loop consecutively, allowing the program to change response and control the Arduino board. That is a while loop. If you are setting the pin as a high, that is a digital write. And the next functions, a function is a block of code that has a name and a block of statements that are executed when the function is called. So the functions void setup and void loop have already been discussed and Other built-in functions will be discussed later. Type function name, that is a parameter, and within the braces we have a statement. Next, variable. A variable is a way of naming and storing a numerical value for later use by the program. As their namesake suggests, variables are the number that can be continuously changed as opposed to constant whose value never changes. A variable needs to be declared and optionally assigned to the value needing to be stored. The following code declares a variable called input variable and assigns it the value obtained on analog input pin. Your integer input variable that declares a variable and it assigns a value as 0, and the input variable that is analog read 2. It means that you are setting the variable value to a value that is the analog pin as 2. Next, variable scope. A variable can be declared at the beginning of the program before void setup, locally inside of functions, and sometimes within a statement block such as for loops. Where the variable is declared determines the variable scope or the ability of the certain parts of a program to make use of the variable. A global variable is one that can be seen and used by every functions and statements in a program. A local variable is one that is defined inside a function and as a part of a loop. Next, if statement tests whether certain conditions has been reached, such as an analog value being above a certain number, and executes any statements inside the brackets if statement is true. If false, the program skips over the statement. The format for an if test is if some variable value within the brackets you have a do something. If else statement, if else allows either or decisions to be made. For example, if you wanted to test a digital input and one thing, if the input went high, or instant to another thing if the input was low, you tried that in this way. If input is high, do think A, or else you can do think B. Next, digital read pin. So, reads the value from a specified digital pin with the results either high or low. The pin can be specified as either a variable or it may be a constant, that is 0 to 13. Your value digital read pin, it sets the value equal to whatever you are providing to the input pin. So, digital read pin as value outputs either logical level high or low at a specified digital pin. This pin can be specified as either a variable or constant, that may be 0 to 13. Digital write pin, that is setting the pin to a particular pin to high. Thank you.